Yet another Aria 2-5 vlog. We got two sessions for you today. I am here for the daytime. I sit with the max 1500, lost a few pots, but back to battle. Under the gun, a very solid French regular, raises it up to $20. I have King 6 of Hearts. This is the only sort of crappy King X that I 3-bet in early position. It's just King 6. So I make it 65, folds back round, and he does make the call. We are heads up to a flop of Jack 10-5 Rainbow. Not a whole lot going on for us here, but we do have some backdoors. So when he checks it over, I fire a 1/3 bet of 45, and my opponent makes the call. Off to the turn, which is the beautiful 3 of Hearts. We do pick up the flush draw. When he checks it over, I want to bet. SPR is looking around 5, so about 115% pot would be good here. I thought the pot was around 250, but it's not. And I also can't do math, so I fire up for 315. Opponent thinks it over, and then makes a call. Not too many rivers we're going to blast off with this specific combo, but river is the beautiful Ace of Hearts. We make the nuts on the river. My opponent checks it over, and there's only one size here to go. I fire out all in, put my opponent deep in the tank, very deep. He unfortunately does get clock called on him, which I thought was a little bit soon, but whatever. My opponent's thinking it over and is saying, I don't think I'm good enough to fold this hand, which is music to my ears, but then goes through all the hands and ultimately thinks the Ace of Hearts is just the worst card in the deck, which is kind of true. King Queen gets there, the backdoor hearts, and decides to fold pocket tens. He flopped middle set and finds a fold on the river. Well played by my opponent. Seriously, really, really well played. And we're going to win probably the minimum with that hand, but how can you complain with King 6 of Hearts? Okay, we pick up a real hand this time. Ace Queen offsuit and raise things up to 15 from the hijack. We do get 2 callers who won 3 ways to a flop of Ace 7-5 Rainbow. Pretty nice. Big blind checks it over. I fire out a small bet of 15 and only the big blind player continues. Off to the turn, which is mostly a blank, 3 of spades. He checks it over once again, and I've been firing out a lot of overbets in this spot, but it just hasn't been working. So I decided to go for a more normal size of $60 here. My opponent once again makes the call. Off to the river, which is the 3 of diamonds. Beautiful card, 7-5 gets counterfeit. And he's not really going to have a 3, so he checks it over once again, and I fire out for 180. Opponent thinks it over, and then makes the call. Looks like we're good here. And you know what? It's been a long time since I flopped top pair and just got to go for 3 streets of normal size values, so this feels really good. Cutoff has raised it up to $20, and I've got 6-5 suited on the button. It's not a hand that plays great multi-way, so I want to kind of kick out the blind, so I re-raise things up to 65, and only the cutoff makes the call. We go to a pretty good flop of Ace 5-8 Rainbow. We do have the backdoor straight, backdoor flush draw, as well as bottom pair. But now my opponent is stacking up a bet and fires out a pretty much pot-sized bet of 125. Okay, this has just got to be a bluff. Like, what hand plays this way? Nothing. I'm just going to call and just going to take it away from him on the turn of river, but I don't think I need to. So I just toss in the call. Turn is the Ace of Diamonds. Makes it way less likely that he's got a value that's just playing weird now. So when my opponent fires out once again for 125, I honestly think of ripping it in here, but I kind of want to get one more bluff out of him on the river. I just don't think he's got nothing. I just don't think he has anything. So I toss in the call, we're off to the river, which is the 4 of diamonds. We do make the flush, but I still think we're good the entire way. And now my opponent decides to check it on over. Pretty unfortunate, but yeah, I'm going to try go for some value here. I just don't think we're going to get called by anything. He's probably got, like, somehow 6 high. Just somehow. So I fire out all in, and sure enough, my opponent makes a pretty quick fold. Not a big pot, but it's pretty interesting, I think. Alright, it's a new day over here at the win. I pick up Queen 10 of clubs on the button and face a raise from early position to 15. I think calling's probably the best play here, so I toss in the call. Small blind also calls. Now big blind puts in the squeeze, but only to 65. Surprisingly, under the gun folds, and for this price in position, I'm not folding any hands, so I make the call. And now small blind also folds. They must know something I don't. Flop comes down, however. King Jack 6 Rainbow. We do have the backdoor flush draw and the open ender. My opponent now fires out for 65, and I make the call. Off to the turn, which is really bad. It's the King of Hearts. And my opponent fires out, but for 125, it's sort of like just over 1/3 pot. And I normally wouldn't make this call because we only really have 4 outs here. My opponent's probably got Ace King or Aces here. For this size really feels like Aces. I think Ace King will go a little bit bigger here. But we've only got 4 outs, really. Just a 9. But I think we can bluff Rivers. So I toss in the call. River is the 10 of diamonds. So close. My opponent now checks it over. And I think it's just... he just has aces here. I don't think he's got anything else. And I think we can make him fold it. So I fire out all in here. We do not get snap called. And my opponent says, I think you have pocket 6s. Which is fair, but could also have King Jack spades, King 10, King Queen. There's more hands than just that I could have. Ace Queen as well. Maybe some Queen 9 of hearts, but anyways, he decides to put me on pocket 6s and makes the fold, and we're going to pick up a pretty nice pot here to start the day. Okay, Low Jack has raised up to 15. He is probably the best 2-5 player, period. Especially, like, at least one that I played with, but he's a very solid player. He raised up to 15, and I randomize the 3-bet here, make it 50. Folds back around, and he makes the call. Off to a flop of Ace 10-9 Rainbow. He checks it over, and I'm going to put this hand into my check back range. I check it back, and we're off to the turn, which is the 6 of diamonds. It does complete 8-7 suited, but I'm not too worried about it. He fires out for $80 now, and raising would just be silly, so I toss in the call. We're off to the river, which is the 3 of spades, pretty much a brick. And now he fires out an overbet of $400. Ugh. Turning our hand essentially into a bluff catcher now. Now, in terms of hand strength, this is the 3rd best hand I will ever have in this spot. I have Ace 6 suited and Ace 3 suited, and that is it. So Ace Jack, and I also have Ace Queen at a mixed frequency that would check flop. I'd probably 50% check, 50% bet, but this is really high up in our range. However, I don't like having a Jack here, and I don't like having a Queen, as they're going to block his main bluffs of Queen Jack. But I don't have a Diamond, which is kind of nice. I don't know. I decided in the moment that the Ace of Spades was just too strong a card to fold, blocking Ace 10 and Ace 9 and Ace 6 suited, which are the hands that make the most sense for him to play this way. He's never going to have Ace 3 suited the way he played with an $80 bet on the turn, so this hand just blocks so many of his 2-pair combos, so I decided to call all my Ace Jacks and Ace Queens that have the Ace of Spades, and then just call everything that blocks the straight. So 10-8 suited, 9-7 suited, 6-8 suited, 6-7 suited. All of those hands are going to make it into my call range as well. So I toss in the call, and my opponent rolls over the Queen Jack of Spades. We picked one off. We got one. On to the next hand. We pick up pocket 10s in early position, raise things up to $15. I get 2 callers before it folds around to the small blind, who puts in the squeeze up to 140. Folds back around to me, and this is a huge squeeze. This should be around $90. And he's gone 3x over that. It's huge, and my man's sitting there with about $600 in his stack, and I just don't believe it. Like, I think maybe he's got Ace Jack, King Jack, something like that has good removal but doesn't want to call anything, so I'm just going to ship it in here. I fire all in. I'm not worried about Low Jack or Cutoff calling behind. I think they do have roughly the same stack, but I'm not worried about it. And small blind, insta-mucks. So we are picking up that pretty nice pot here with pocket 10s, and on to the next one. The under the gun player has raised up to 15, and I'm looking down at pocket 8s in the cutoff. I make the call, and we end up going 5 ways to a flop. Can we hit it? 10-8, 4, 2 hearts is the flop. Beautiful middle set there. Unfortunately, it does check to me, so I'm going to have to do my own betting. I fire up for 25, button makes a call, folds back around, and we are heads up to the turn. Turn, though, is the best card in the deck, the 10 of hearts. The flush gets there, the top pair is now trips. I check it over, intending to go for the check raise. Then my opponent checks it back. River is the queen of clubs. Gotta go for some value here. I imagine he's got something. What can he just call flop with that isn't really huge here? So I fired a very small bet of $10. My opponent really immediately goes, what, is that supposed to make me spaz out? And then flicks on the call. I show, and my opponent is way too smart for me. That is the minimum I have probably ever won with a set. Okay, the same reg that we had ace-jack offsuit against before, we now have ace-jack off again. This time I decide to toss in the call. We are pretty deep, and we end up going 5 ways to the flop again, so looking for a decent one, and it does come in the form of Jack 10-3 Rainbow. Big blind checks, now the under the gun player checks. I fired a bet of 25. Hijack calls, button folds, and now big blind goes for the check raise up to 120. I'm not really believing this, but the big blind has the most 2 pairs out of all of us, being able to have Jack 3 and 10-3 suited, so we do have to be a little bit cautious here. Now the original raiser back raises to 280. And now I'm in a spot, and I thought about this for about 2-3 minutes, and I think the best course of action here is just to overcall here. Even if he's got a hand like aces, kings, or queens, there's no way that I can't bluff him off it. This just looks so strong to re-flat here. But I am really worried about big blind just having a 2 pair or like or bottom set and then just losing a stack. So I just thought it over. And I really like to call here. Raise is completely out of the question. We're never raising. It's between call or fold. And after like 3 minutes, I was just wasting way too much of the table's time trying to figure it out. And I really wanted to call, but I just ended up letting it go. But I think that could have been a very interesting hand. Hijack now folds, big blind folds, under the gun wins, and I believe he showed either the queen or the 9 of diamonds. That one hurt a little bit, but that is okay. We almost figured it out. Alright folks, that is going to wrap up my month in Vegas. I hope you enjoyed as much as I did, but I doubt it. I did so much stuff in Vegas, raced a Porsche, shotgun, saw Cirque du Soleil, and of course played a ton of poker. I managed to get about 114 hours for the month, which I'd say is pretty good. 160 is pretty tough for me to do. But over the 114 hours, I won a grand total of $12,219 for an hourly rate of about $107. Out of those 114 though, I think I put in about 97 just at the win. So like 90% of my volume was done at the win, and I actually won more there than at other properties for a total of $13,196 for an hourly rate of $136. Yeah, the win went really well for me. For the totals, this video featured 2 sessions at the win, but I'm also going to include a session at Aria as well as a Bellagio. I'm just going to include them all for the totals, but you'll see those videos probably at a later date, hopefully after this video comes out. But the Bellagio 510, I was in for 3,500, managed to lose only 1,020, so that's all right. And then Aria 2.5, one of the most frustrating sessions I've ever played in my life, but you guys will see it soon. I lost $956, which for how bad that session went, I consider a win. And then for this video, I won $680 in the first session, and for the second session, I won $1,115. That's a cumulative total of negative $181 for this video, bringing the bankroll from $33,370 all the way down to $33,189, basically even. We are going to get to halfway soon. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please chuck us a like if you did enjoy this, and I'll see you guys all in the Talking Stick videos.